Humanities Night presentation by Maya Collins. Introduction. My name is Maya Collins and I'm a freshman, and this year I did the Humanities elective. The main goal in this class is to invest yourself in something that you care a lot about and to pursue that thing through a project. But it isn't only the process of taking part in that interest, but it's also to learn more about yourself and how to become a better person and grow from this experience. What I will cover in this presentation. What I did, which is a basic description of what I accomplished over the course of the year in humanities, how it connects to the design thinking process, which I'll explain later in my presentation, how I've grown and improved while I was in the humanities elective, and lastly, the finished project of my projects and proof of how I've grown and improved. My first project. With the purpose of this course in mind, I first chose to take part in my project called A Dish a Day. It is that I would create a website that would provide low-income making families with very low-cost meal plans and resources that they could use in their everyday lives. I remember in the beginning of quarantine how many people were struggling to bring food to their tables every night, especially due to the large number of job losses. And so I realized that though I might not be hearing as much of this now, that this could still very well be happening. And so, after doing some research, I found that my theories proved true, and there sprang the idea of the meal plan. In this plan, I would include various types of meals, such as that would be made for affordable prices and would have ingredients that would be easier to acquire in about any town or city. I was also aware of the fact that many people may need special types of meal plans, such as gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, which I thought to include. The recipes would be from other online resources, and I would test them, rate, and review them, and measure their costs on my website, since I very well can come up with my own recipes, though I would definitely give credit to the recipes that I used. The website is set up in different categories. There is the meal plan, which is made up of 4 months worth of 2 week low priced meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and extra recipes such as snacks and desserts that are easy to make and extremely affordable. The prices of the meal plans vary from $3 to $6 per meal, which serves about 4 people per meal. I have accomplished and completed my end goal with this project, and I plan to keep adding to this project in the future. Maybe one day I can print a book or distribute it to local food banks. I also plan to be more inclusive meal plans for people with allergies. And here are some pictures of my website. This is the homepage. These are just some of the recipes. This is the front cover of Volume 1 of the meal plan. This is what the meal plan includes. And this is another recipe. Project process. The phase 1 was the idea and motivation. Phase 2 was the research. Phase 3 was to build the website. Phase 4 was to test, rate, and review. Phase 5 was feedback. And Phase 6 was revision and final. My second project, Psychology Basics website. So after finishing the project and still having a lot of time left in humanities, I tried to find another thing that I was interested in. And to be honest, it took a while. I truly couldn't find something that I felt I cared enough about or was curious enough about to pursue. But then I found my interest in psychology. Again, with the electives, a problem I had a while ago was that as a freshman, I was not able to take psychology. And so I decided not to continue my interest in it after that until I came to humanities. So, to start off with really no end idea in mind, I just started researching and looking more into psychology and different types of it. Slowly, I started compiling a little, looking more into psychology and different types of it. Then I compiled a little portfolio of data just to remember what I uncovered and learned. Then I went to Mr. Daly and tried to figure out how this could turn into a project. Throughout the process, I had a lot of bumps and blocks in the road, and I tried to email a few different people for any recommendations on things that I should research and it came back with nothing. I thought that maybe I could make a little packet of basic information for incoming freshmen who were still interested in psychology, even though they couldn't take part in it. And so I pursued that idea. I'm still working on that part of the project. I have made a website and made a few pages of basic information and need to know about psychology before you begin or invest yourself in a course about it. I do plan to continue this in the future and see how it goes, but right now I'm still in the workshop phase. And again, here are some pictures of my website. This is the front cover and what pages it includes. And this is the behavioral psychology slide, the forensic psychology, Connection to design thinking process. In Humanities, we learned about the design thinking process. Design thinking is a process that consists of 5 phases. These phases are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. The first phase of the design thinking process, empathize, means to put yourself in other people's shoes. But not only that, but to make your project to really help others. So the empathize phase is calling in sources and asking what they need In my first project, I connected to the empathy phase by doing research. I researched about the struggles that people were experiencing with food surrounding COVID. I read about people who were experiencing it and talking about what they needed. For my second project, I was able to connect with the empathy phase as a freshman myself. Though I do think now, looking back on it, I should have asked more people of their opinions and thoughts on the topic, though I was still able to get an idea of what other kids may want and feel. The next phase is define, which simply means to define a clear problem that you want to address. Fortunately, I found this part of the design thinking process very simple to accomplish. The third phase is the ideate phase. I found everything very easy in my first project, though unfortunately I cannot say the same for my second project. During my second project, I did have quite a bit of trouble trying to figure out how I could pinpoint and define the idea that I was interested in. Prototype. The second last phase is the prototype phase. This is pretty self explanatory, but the prototype phase is the kind of workshop and draft of your project. The last phase of the design thinking process is the testing phase, and this would connect to things like feedback night. We would present our projects and our questions, and we would get advice from outside sources and then make final edits on our projects. What did I learn and improve on? Habits of mind. Over the course of the year, I truly believe that I've grown as a person and student. I would have been able to learn new things and take risks that I would have never taken before entering the humanities elective. First and foremost, I feel that I made a lot of progress in my habits of mind. In the beginning of the year, I recall how much I struggled with adaptability. Before this course, I would go into projects, mainly school projects, with a direct course and outcome set in mind. There wouldn't be any twists or bumps in the road that I would have to work through. And then I started this project in the beginning of the year and learned how vital it was to be able to adapt to changes and compromise. I had a lot of trouble sorting out ideas and pushing through some of the hard problems that occurred while pursuing this idea. And I've gained a lot of self perspective and understanding through this. Now I feel that I am most strongest at my new acquired ability to adapt to situations. The next habit of mine that I was able to grow in while working on my project was gratitude. From the very beginning of my project, it made me realize just how much I have and how fortunate I am to have those things. My project centered around helping people who struggled to bring food to their tables every night and who were not able to pay groceries because they were too expensive. And it made me take a step back and realize that my family never had to endure those troubles and that I never worried if I would not be able to eat dinner one night. And so as a person, I feel I've grown because of this realization, and then I become more open-minded and knowledgeable about what was going on around me. Another habit of mine that I worked through this year was courage. Before this year, I never tried to do things that were out of my comfort zone. For example, starting a project with no end goal in mind, or doing something solely based on my curiosity and interest in it. And to do those things this year required a lot of courage and determination to try new things that I would never have done before. And from this opened a door to a world of new possibilities for me. It opened my eyes to see what I could accomplish when I put my mind to it. The last habit of mine that I acquired over these past 9 months is reflectiveness. I've realized as a person, when I'm set on doing something, I always strive to accomplish that goal, whether the goal is less than or greater than what I'm capable of doing. Sometimes I set standards for myself that are either too high or too low, or sometimes I won't start something or change something unless I have an end goal in mind. And so this caused me to struggle a lot in my projects this year. But when I started to try to develop reflectiveness, it helped a lot. I started to take a step back and look over the decisions that I had made in the past and was able to make changes and revise the plans that I had made. I believe that this was one of the most important habits of mine that I learned over this year. This is because without being able to make progress, I would never have been able to make progress unless I reflected over what I've done. And I never would have been able to improve as on my project or a person as well. In the end, I believe that I have grown a lot as a person while taking part in this humanities course, and I have learned many new things that I will take with me for the rest of my life. Thank you for listening.